The morning sun poured through the towering glass facade of Jackson Community Bank, casting long warm beams across the polished marble floors where Maya Jackson had spent countless hours building her dream, a dream forged from the fires of hardship, discrimination, and unrelenting determination. Today was supposed to be just another day in the life of Maya, a woman whose very presence at the helm of one of the city's most successful banks defied expectations and shattered ceilings. She had clawed her way up from a small-town girl with nothing but ambition and grit, fighting doubters who saw her not as a leader but as a threat to the old guard's comfortable, exclusionary world. As she stepped out of her sleek black car, the heels of her designer shoes clicking confidently against the pavement, Maya felt the familiar pulse of pride and purpose beat steadily in her chest. She wore her power like armor, a tailored navy suit, her natural hair perfectly styled, and eyes that radiated the calm assurance of a woman who had earned every ounce of respect in the business world. But as she pushed open the glass doors to the bank's headquarters, that familiar sense of control slipped away in an instant, replaced by confusion and an unsettling chill. Two security officers, faces unreadable and rigid, stepped abruptly into her path, blocking her way with an authority that made her stop short. "Excuse me," Maya said firmly, a slight edge in her voice. "I'm the CEO here." But the man, closest to her, a tall figure with a clipped tone, said nothing but repeated, "You need to leave." His words hung in the air, heavy and incomprehensible. The bank's manager soon appeared from a side office, his face cold, eyes avoiding Maya's as if she were an intruder, not the woman who had poured her life into this institution. "She doesn't have clearance today," he said flatly, as though it was some administrative routine, though the hurt it caused Maya was anything but routine. The room felt like it closed in around her. Employees who once greeted her with warm smiles and respect now stared with a mix of disbelief and fear, some whispering quietly, others frozen in place, unable to process the betrayal unfolding before their eyes. The security guards gestured firmly toward the exit, and Maya, for the first time in her career, was forced to walk out the door she had built this company behind, escorted not as a leader but as an unwelcome visitor. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with a fierce sense of injustice that burned deep inside. She stood on the sidewalk, the city bustling around her. Yet everything felt eerily silent, the sounds of cars and distant chatter muted by the shock settling in her chest. How could this be happening? The woman who had weathered systemic racism, who had broken through countless barriers, was being shoved aside by the very people she trusted, the very institution she nurtured. Maya's mind raced with questions, but one thought rose above all. This was not the end, it was a call to fight, drawing strength from the generations of women and men who had fought before her. Maya pulled out her phone with steady hands and dialed the number she knew by heart, her closest legal ally, the one who never backed down from a battle for justice. "It's time to fight back," she said, her voice calm but steel-edged, a promise not just to herself but to every person who believed in her leadership and vision. As the city moved around her, Maya's spirit ignited with a new fire, one that would not be extinguished by betrayal or fear. This was the moment her true battle began, not just for her position, but for the respect, dignity, and equality she and so many others deserved. Within minutes of Maya's resolute phone call, a black SUV screeched to a stop outside a discreet conference center just blocks away from the bank, and out poured her top legal advisors, a formidable team of attorneys, strategists, and activists, who were as fierce as they were brilliant, united by an unshakable belief not only in Maya's leadership but in the broader principle of justice and equality that she embodied. Each member of this legal coalition had their own stories of fighting against systemic barriers, discrimination, and entrenched power structures, and they knew that Maya's case was far more than a personal struggle. It was a watershed moment. In the ongoing battle for corporate transparency and racial equity, they quickly gathered in a sleek, glass-walled conference room, the air thick with urgency and focus, laptops and legal pads open, voices hushed but determined as they began dissecting the bank's internal power grab with precision and depth. What seemed at first like an unfortunate personnel dispute quickly revealed itself to be a cold, calculated coup by a faction of the board and senior management threatened by Maya's influence, her unwavering commitment to uplifting minority communities through targeted loans and financial literacy programs, and her refusal to play by the old boys club rules that had long kept the bank's leadership homogeneous and exclusionary. This was not just an affront to Maya, it was a systemic attempt to erase the progress she symbolized, and to send a chilling message to anyone who dared to challenge the status quo. The legal team's plan was swift and strategic. They would storm the bank not just with a lawsuit, but with a multi-front offensive that included a media blitz designed to expose the corruption, discriminatory practices, and covert sabotage at the highest levels of the institution. Every clause of the bank's bylaws, every board meeting transcript, every email trail was scrutinized, revealing a trail of collusion and bad faith that went far beyond what Maya had initially suspected. Meanwhile, Maya's phone buzzed incessantly. Community leaders, shareholders, former employees, and customers flooded her with messages of support, pledging loyalty and promising to stand by her side no matter the fallout. The wave of encouragement reinforced her resolve, transforming her anger and pain into a focused determination to reclaim her rightful place and to ensure that no one could push her out without facing the full weight of justice. The battle was no longer just about a title or position. It had become a fight to uphold the values Maya stood for: respect, fairness, and the undeniable right of every individual to lead with dignity. As the team laid out their legal strategy late into the night, mapping every possible move and countermeasure, Maya felt the power of solidarity and hope surge through her. The fight ahead would be brutal, but with this army at her side, defeat was not an option. The stakes had never been higher, and the city was watching. Maya was not just reclaiming a bank, she was reclaiming her story, her legacy, and setting a precedent that would resonate far beyond the marble walls of her office. Exactly 1 hour after being forcibly removed from the very place she had poured her heart and soul into building, Maya Jackson stood once again before the towering glass doors of Jackson Community Bank. But this time she was not alone, and the atmosphere around her crackled with a palpable energy of defiance, justice, and unyielding resolve. Behind her, a procession of her legal team, sharp composed and exuding confidence, followed with steady purpose, their briefcases and folders full of meticulously gathered evidence that detailed the illegal and discriminatory actions taken against their client. The sun was dipping toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the street, but the media presence was already overwhelming. Cameras from local news outlets, reporters with microphones thrust forward, and flashing lights from phones documented the unfolding moment with a sense of historic gravity. The crowd outside the bank was a mix of curious onlookers, loyal customers, employees who had been stunned silent hours before, and community activists who had rallied behind Maya's cause. Once word spread of the injustice, as the group approached, the security guards who had earlier barred Maya's entry now stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene or step aside, and no one dared stop the flood of justice now surging through those doors. Maya's steps were steady and unshakable. Each stride echoed the countless battles she had fought to reach this moment, and the board members inside, those architects of her ousting, knew the tide had irrevocably turned. Once the group entered, the atmosphere in the boardroom was thick with tension as the assembled directors, many of whom had underestimated Maya's resolve and the loyalty she commanded, were met with the unwavering eyes of the woman they had tried to erase, and the formidable presence of her legal team. The air was electric as Maya's attorneys laid out the case with surgical precision, evidence of illegal removal from office, clear breaches of fiduciary duty, documented discriminatory practices hidden behind corporate jargon, and a trail of emails and meeting transcripts that revealed a conspiracy to undermine her leadership because of her race and progressive policies. Shareholders, many of whom had been blindsided by the sudden upheaval, demanded answers with voices raised and pens poised to take notes, their trust shaken but ready to be rebuilt under rightful leadership. Employees, emboldened by Maya's return, flooded into the room chanting her name, their voices rising in unison, demanding respect and an end to the toxic culture that had allowed such betrayal to take root. The board members, once arrogant and smug, now found their facades crumbling under the intense scrutiny and mounting pressure. Their attempts to deflect and deny met with pointed questions and irrefutable facts. Hours passed in a blur of tense negotiations, legal threats, and impassioned speeches, until finally, the board capitulated, forced to reinstate Maya Jackson as the rightful CEO of Jackson Community Bank and announce an independent internal investigation into the actions and conduct of those responsible for the attempted coup. Cameras outside captured Maya's victorious emergence from the building, her face calm but triumphant as supporters erupted into cheers, and local news anchors heralded the moment as a powerful victory for justice, leadership, and the spirit of a woman who refused to be pushed aside. Maya's return was more than just a reinstatement. It was a powerful declaration that justice would prevail, that discrimination and corruption could be challenged and defeated, and that dignity and respect were non-negotiable. That evening, as she walked through the bank's corridors once more, greeted by heartfelt embraces and renewed loyalty from her team, Maya knew this was a new beginning not just for her, but for everyone who believed in fairness, equality, and the transformative power of resilience. The news of Maya Jackson's triumphant return to her rightful position as CEO of Jackson Community Bank spread like wildfire throughout the city and beyond, igniting waves of support and admiration from every corner of the community. Media outlets, clamoring for exclusive interviews, and advocates of justice heralding her story as a beacon of hope and resilience. Maya, with grace and unwavering strength, used every platform from television broadcasts to social media to speak candidly about the battle she had endured, the deep wounds inflicted by betrayal within her own company, and the vital importance of standing firmly against injustice wherever it lurked, making clear that her fight was not just personal but emblematic of the countless voices silenced by systemic racism and entrenched power, a fight for dignity, respect, and fairness that transcended one institution and touched the very heart of societal change. In her speeches and interviews, Maya recounted how she had faced attempts to erase her legacy but had instead emerged stronger, a testament to the power of perseverance, the strength drawn from her community, and the unbreakable bond forged through shared struggle and unyielding determination. She credited the outpouring of support from customers, employees, and civil rights groups for giving her the courage to confront those who sought to undermine her, and pledged that Jackson Community, the bank, would become a model institution for inclusivity, transparency, and corporate accountability. Internally, the bank underwent a profound transformation as Maya led the charge to implement sweeping reforms that tackled the root causes of the toxic culture that had allowed discrimination and corruption to fester. She launched new diversity initiatives aimed not only at increasing representation across all levels of leadership but at creating an environment where every employee, regardless of race, gender, or background, felt valued, heard, and empowered to contribute their best. These initiatives included mentorship programs designed to uplift minority employees, comprehensive anti-bias training, and a transparent reporting system that held all staff accountable to the highest ethical standards, reinforcing a culture of respect and integrity that quickly renewed trust among the workforce and clientele alike. The bank's financial performance soared as these changes fostered innovation and community engagement, with customers rallying around an institution that truly reflected their values and aspirations. Local businesses, nonprofits, and individuals who had once felt marginalized found in Jackson Community Bank a trusted partner willing to invest in their futures, further solidifying Maya's vision of a financial institution that was not just profitable but profoundly impactful. Meanwhile, Maya's personal journey became a source of inspiration far beyond the banking world. She was invited to keynote events, sit on influential panels, and consult with organizations committed to equity and justice, using her experience to mentor the next generation of leaders and activists. Despite the accolades and renewed success, Maya remained grounded, driven by a fierce commitment to continue the fight for equality and to ensure that no one else would endure what she had faced. She knew the battle against systemic injustice was far from over and that every victory was a step toward a larger movement. On quiet evenings, standing by the large windows of her restored office, looking out over the city skyline that had witnessed her fall and rise, Maya felt a profound sense of accomplishment tempered by the knowledge that the future required constant vigilance, courage, and heart. The Jackson Community Bank was now more than a financial institution. It was a symbol of resilience, hope, and transformation, a living proof that injustice could be challenged and defeated when courage met solidarity. For Maya Jackson, this chapter marked not an end but a powerful new beginning, a call to action that echoed far beyond her own story and into the hearts of all who believed that leadership rooted in integrity and equality could change the world. And now, unstoppable, she was ready to lead that change.